Hi everyone, you're listening to Let's Stay Together. It's a podcast about the manga and anime series Fruits Basket by Natsuki Takaya. I'm Ellen.
And I'm Kayla.
And this is our teaser episode. It's our first episode of the series, and we're going to talk about the premise of the series and also what we hope to explore and what we plan to do with this podcast. So, the plan for the podcast is that every episode will summarize and discuss 2 chapters of the manga. And we're going to talk spoilers, but we'll save all of that for a discussion at the end of the episode. So if you're reading or watching the series for the first time, you don't need to worry about getting spoiled. We'll save that for people who want to hear about those things. And we're going to start releasing episodes in advance of the anime so that everybody who is like kind of rereading or wanting to read the manga for the first time before the 2019 anime comes out in April, we can all kind of prepare together, get ready for the new anime. So when the anime starts to be released, we'll also talk about those in the episodes as well. And that's it. That's the plan. When I do you'll see how it goes. When I do presentations for work, that's normally the point where I would stop and say, any questions? But, so I guess any questions you can write to us, but it'll be too late. So
Rude.
It's never too late. You can always ask questions. Actually, I want to start with kind of the reason why we're doing this podcast. So the reason why I'm interested in doing this podcast is because I've always loved Fruits Basket, and I think that it has a reputation for being kind of cutesy, and I think part of that reputation is upheld by the anime that was released in the early 2000s. I think it was like 2001, that a lot of people watched but kind of didn't read the full series or get into more of the story after watching the anime. And so it's my personal goal to try to kind of bring to light some of the deeper and darker and more interesting and intricate stories that are in Fruits Basket and look at the series as a whole.
I think it definitely has that kind of that late 90s, early 2000s cutesy shoujo anime kind of reputation, which there's aspects of that to it, definitely, especially in the beginning. But yeah, it does get darker as it goes on, and it gets, it's darker and deeper than most people realize. So
yeah, I think so. So like to spread that.
Spread the good word.
Oh yeah, I'm here to spread the good word about Fruits Basket. So to get started, let's just talk about kind of the premise of the series. The premise from kind of the back of the manga, so we're reading through the Tokyo Pop versions of the manga because we speak English and read English, and it's also just the version that we have. If you're reading along and you have the Yen Press versions, that's totally fine. If we quote some dialogue, it may not match exactly, but it's not a big deal. Don't worry. I think the Tokyo Pop versions are regarded as a very good translation. I think the Yen Press ones are okay, but it's whatever. It's whatever you can get your hands on.
You will miss out on that 2004 Tokyo Pop vintage, though.
You totally are going to miss out on teal and pink or purple, teal and magenta. 100%.
There's a lot of teal.
You're also going to miss out on mine have yellowed edges already. I don't know what paper they printed this on, but it's not good. Let's just say that. It
did not hold up well. The one I bought used is yellowed, and the rest of mine are fine. So really? I don't know how that person stored the
just the volume. With the outside of the book, not the spine, in direct sunlight constantly. Yes. I don't know. Mine are yellowed. I don't know how they ended up that way because they're in a bookcase, but whatever. It's fine.
And they were really cheap paper in early manga releases.
They're kind of this. Yeah, they're like a thick paper. I'm looking at it. The Yen Press ones are really nice, and I do have the first the re-released Japanese one, and the paper is very nice. If you're a weird paper nerd like me, I think it's not going to yellow so easily. So the Tokyo Pop, the premise on the Tokyo Pop book is Toru Honda was an orphan with no place to go until the mysterious Soma family offered her a place to call home. Now her ordinary high school life is turned upside down as she's introduced to the Soma's world of magical curses and family secrets. Discover for yourself the secret of the Zodiac and find out why Fruits Basket has won the hearts of readers the world over. And I think, so it's a good summary. I mean, it alludes to everything that everybody kind of knows when they start this series, which is that the story is about a family that is cursed to transform into the 12 animals of the Zodiac, plus the cat. and that she's kind of this normal girl that's thrown into this world and has to live with them and deal with that. It's a good description to start with. Let's just say it like that.
And as just a kind of an add-on here, the DVD releases of the anime has a similar summary on the back, but it does start with this pretty great line here. The Soma family is cursed. However, this is no ordinary family curse.
What do you think an ordinary family curse is?
Oh no, apparently not transforming into animals.
It's just like a regular family curse, like a run-of-the-mill family curse.
Your average family curse.
Yeah, basically. So I don't know. So that's basically that's the gist of the story. That's what people see or hear, or like, if your one friend that that tells you about all the new anime and manga and stuff that recommends there's always one, isn't there? I don't know. Your one friend who reads everything and sees everything before you, that's what they would tell you about the book, or about the story. And so that's kind of it. That's what we're getting into. The series started in 1998, and so this is like over 20 years that it's been around, and I think loved by many people. Wow. Yeah, it's been around forever. Like, I think maybe the first release was 1999. This might be the 20th year. Yeah, it's been quite a while that it's been out, and it ran from 1998 to like 2008. So it ran for about 10 years as well in being released in Japan. So yeah, I don't know. That's cool. It's gonna be a good time. We're gonna talk about the story. We're gonna get really into it. So I have a question for you.
I'm gonna eat, sleep, and breathe Fruits Basket.
Totally. Eat all the things, all the fruits. without spoiling anything.
Today's fruit, apple.
Today's fruit, always strawberry. So, okay, without spoiling anything, is there anything... So we've both read this series before. Is there anything that you're looking to understand kind of better and get into in more depth on this read-through?
Well, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing like how the story comes together more, because I've read it before, but kind of just sort of piecemeal as it was coming out. Like, I read like the volumes of the manga that were out when I got interested in the story, and then I'd wait for new volumes to come out, and then I'd kind of fall away from it for a while and come back and go, oh, there's more translated, I'll read that. So I've read all of it, but I never really sat down and read from beginning to end. I've gone back and read bits I like, but not the whole story. So I think it's more planned out than it seems at first. Like just in the first couple chapters that I've reread, preparing for these first episodes, I've already noticed a lot of foreshadowing and things that get mentioned early on that don't really get fully explained until much later, that I don't think I realized as much just reading along kind of as it came out. So I'm excited to see sort of how the story comes together as a whole.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that always happens when you look at something in retrospect. But especially this story. Is there anything else?
No, I'm sure.
Okay.
Find out more as I go along.
Okay. All right. So I also made a list of a couple things that I want to do. So I also want to kind of understand the story overall. I'm also looking forward to comparing this to the new anime, because the promise from the production company is that this will cover the story end to end. So we'll see how that goes. The original anime I think it ended around the 5th volume. I can't remember what chapter exactly.
End of volume 6.
Right.
When it ends.
Right.
And there's
20,
27, 28.
It's just 20. Yeah.
I'm thinking of
Oh.
Full Alchemist.
Oh yeah. there's
like 28 volumes.
Does it really? It's that long? Interesting. I think there's 20.
108 chapters.
Oh.
They're just longer chapters.
That's true. Yeah, they are like that. I think.
Yeah, it's 20 or 21 for
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe 22, something like that. It's in the 20s, so it's not the longest series. But yeah, so therefore it only covers like a quarter of the story, if that, right? So
yeah,
be looking forward to seeing that and comparing all of that. One thing that I want to track through this that I never really thought about in depth before is the kind of the mechanics and the metaphysics of the curse, because there are things like we just talked about the premise of how they transform into animals, but I think there are different things that come up later in this story that like the curse, it changes. We get different views of the curse over time. So I want to see, I want to track that and be discussing that as we go along, and I'm excited about that. The other thing that I want to strive to commit to is looking at the visuals in depth more. So like when I read manga in general, I typically I look at it, but I mostly focus on the dialogue.
Yeah.
And in between the time that I read this the first time and now, I went to design school and studied some art things, and got studied communication theory and stuff like that. And so I want to strive to take a more, not like an academic approach, but a more a detailed approach to looking at the visuals to see if that's what the author Natsuki Takaya was trying to maybe communicate through some of the visuals, and as well as the dialogue and the story overall. So I want to see where those ideas are supported by the visuals. So I'm interested in that,
especially since it was a series that went on for 10 years. That art style definitely evolved, and
it did, yes.
And presumably the author artist gained more experience, so see how her visual storytelling has evolved over the course of the story.
Yeah, and I think even she mentioned it, and I think we've talked about this before, outside of this podcast, but she, when they were developing the visual style for the new anime, she kind of asked that they come up with their own kind of take on the characters, I think, a little bit, or a little a divergence from the visual style is fine, because the style changed so much through the series. And I think she kind of, I don't know, looks back on the early part of the series differently than the later part.
Yeah, it's with the designs for the new anime, I think are kind of interesting, because they really do look kind of like a meeting point between the style at the beginning and the style at the end of the series.
Yeah, they do. I think that's going to be really nice. I think it has definitely a Fruits Basket flavor. It's not going to go in a completely different direction, which is nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting
definitely
to
tell who everyone is.
Yes, you can. Everybody has their characteristic wardrobe. Although Kyo is not wearing his crop top and cargo pants. I don't think.
He is, but it's red now.
Oh yes, yeah, that's good. As long as we have the crop top, then we don't need anything else. So that'll be interesting. Those are things I specifically want to look forward and be able to talk about and comment on. So I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, I don't think we have anything else that we wanted to say about just the premise and the just kick off this podcast. Just looking forward to discussing this with you, and with everybody else, all the fans. So it'll be nice to have something to talk about together.
Yep. Everyone do your reading.
Yes. Next week, return or for the next episode at least, we'll be covering chapters 1 and 2. So get your hands on a copy of Fruits Basket and read along, and we'll be discussing those chapters next. I think that's it for our non-spoilery discussion. So we're going to play some music, and then I want to talk to you about what things that you want to look forward to that include maybe spoilery discussion.
Alrighty.
All right, so I'm going to play some, we'll say bye, and then I'll play some music, and then we'll talk spoilers. So thank you so much for listening to the trailer or the intro for Let's Stay Together. And you can find us on a bunch of different places. We're at staytogetherpodcast.com, Stay Together Podcast on Tumblr. And you can also email us directly at staytogetherpodcast@gmail.com. So yeah, I don't know. Tell all your friends who like anime, or tell your friend who doesn't like anime. I don't know. Whatever.
Tell your coworkers. Tell strangers in the street.
Tell strangers in the street. Tell your, Girl Scout troop. Tell your...
Maybe not. That might get you in trouble.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, no. Well, only if they're daisies. If they're seniors or whatever, then you can do whatever. Okay. All right, that's it for now. We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, if you're listening still, we're going to talk spoilers, so if that's cool with you, that's cool with me. But if you haven't read the series and you don't want to be spoiled, stop listening now. Just stop. It's time to stop. So we talked about things that we want to look for in the series without spoiling things, but there are some things that I want to specifically look for that I want to talk to you about that would be spoilery. So, for example, like, I want to get more clarity on what is up with Shigure and Akito.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what, like, it's obviously have a relationship, right? And they get together
Yeah.
at the end. But I, like, based on some of the things that Akito does later in the series, like, I don't really get what they were kind of scheming when they were trying to get Toru to, when they asked Toru to move in with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I noticed, like, in, I mean, like, it's, like I said, it's
I think it
obvious
was
in the
more.
series.
I think it's more of a Shigure scheme than an
Yeah.
Akito scheme.
It's
But
possible.
yeah, that whole the fact that they have kind of a special connection, shall we say?
They do, yeah.
That's it's hinted
special.
at earlier on that I thought they already kind of.
Yeah, they did.
It's already kind of referenced there. I mean, you don't know the significance when you're first reading it, but the fact that Shigure is the one to go to Akito and talk about all this, and obviously seems to have some kind of influence on Akito.
Mm-hmm. And
That the others, none of the others want to like even go near Akito. So.
Totally. And Yuki also comments on them scheming something right off
Mm-hmm.
right in the get go, like we noticed when we were rereading the first chapters. So yeah, I want to track that through this series, and I want to understand that better. Like I feel like with Shigure, he's out of all the characters in the series, you get a lot of their backstory throughout the series, but we still don't get a lot on Shigure.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's one of the least explored characters, I think. So I think I want to pay more attention in general to like what's going on with Shigure.
Yeah, I think Shigure and Akito, their relationship, but also Shigure and Akito as individual characters going from the start of the series, because they're ones you don't figure out like what their big deal is until a lot later.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting, kind of, because like Shigure starts off mostly as comic relief, and Akito is just kind of a shadowy figure in the background. So going in knowing kind of where they end up and some of their motivations, kind of interesting to see their briefer appearances at the beginning, how those read in light of what we know from the end.
Yeah, I think that will be very interesting. And then the other thing that I noticed that I kind of want to track is like, so it's later explained that Kyo was at the accident that killed Toru's mother, right? And that they had a relationship before.
Yeah.
And so if you look at the timing and how it lines up, he was then gone. He ran away, and then he came back to Shigure's. So like it's foreshadowed quite early on that he was absent for as long as she was, from like the amount of time since the accident, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But for so long I never noticed that. I mean, like while I was reading it, I never thought about it. Like
I never made the connection either, but like I saw that as soon as I started rereading, I was like, oh, that's the exact same time.
Yeah. And so I want to kind of track. I want to pay attention to his, I don't know, his kind of like state at the beginning of the series and kind of after the accident, and just see. I don't know. I want to pay more attention to that because it's foreshadowed, and it's, I don't know. I think I have a suspicion that it impacts a lot of his decisions at the beginning of the series, and so I want to pay attention to that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
We'll just kind of going from that. There's a lot of characters that wind up having had previous relationships or interactions, or just have met each other briefly in the past before the series starts, that you don't know going in, that you don't learn about those previous relationships for quite a while into the series. So it'll be kind of interesting, like knowing about those going in, how the characters interact around with each other.
I think so.
It's like there's that with Kyo having, known Toru's mother, and like Yuki met Toru briefly when they were kids,
right?
Even like going with later characters, like Kakeru has a relationship with Toru's family.
Yes, he does.
And they're just sort of all sorts of interesting things that these characters like interacted or knew each other or knew of each other in pretty serious ways before the series even began, but you don't know that going in. So it'd be interesting to see, like, if you can realize, like, oh, that's why they reacted this way when they first met, that when you just kind of brush that off when you first read.
You're just like, oh, like Kakeru's a weirdo and he just hates Toru.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's like there's a reason. Yeah. And even the characters, like, I think the relationship between, like, Mayuko, Shigure, and Hattori and Kana is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I don't know. That will be. And, like, Ayame. Like, that kind of, like, the Mabudachi trio and, like, their friendship and stuff. And, like, the other characters that are impacted by that is also very interesting.
Yeah, that's another thing that seems mostly comedy at the start, the Mabudachi trio.
Mm-hmm.
But then their relationships with each other and with the outside world become some darker aspects that get revealed later on in the series. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Totally. So that'll be good to explore too.
Mm-hmm. Just a lot of
characters. It is a shoujo.
Looking at stuff we thought was fun and lighthearted and being sad about it.
And I feel like that's the misconception of, like, that's the crux of why, like, I think the anime is pretty good. But the way that some characters are represented and some things are represented is, like, it's the crux of why I don't like it that much. It's like, especially Shigure, he's such a creep.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean, the anime is very good for adapting what it did, and there's no possible way for them to know how it was going to turn out and do anything other than what they did. But it's kind of hard to, like, jive with the more, like, sympathetic takes on certain characters or comedic takes on certain characters.
Yeah, for sure. And there's, like,
the other stuff.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of comedy in Fruits Basket. I mean, like, it's funny.
Yeah, it's a funny series.
But it's not a comedy. Oh, didn't we talk about how this is classified as, like, a romance comedy or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's romance comedy.
Yeah, romance comedy.
Yeah. It's like, no. Kind of. Yeah. It's definitely got a comedy, but it kicks off with, like, everybody's turning into animals and it's funny. But really there's a lot of darkness there, so
yeah,
it will be interesting to
it's funny throughout. There's funny characters, funny moments, but it's not really a comedy.
No, for sure. Wouldn't describe it that way. It's not like we're not talking Rama 1/2. We're talking we're talking, like, other things. Something dark. Yeah. Cool. I think those are all the spoilery things that I wanted to make sure that, like, these are things that I'm interested in keeping track of specifically as we look at the whole series.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you have anything else? Anything to add?
That's what I've got now.
All right, sweet. So in that case, that's the end of the actual end of this trailer. So thanks for listening, and thanks for sticking around and listening to kind of our spoilery discussion. Next time we'll be talking about chapters 1 and 2.
Yep. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.